Hey, what's up, Rotters? Hope y'all blessed out there, man. You know where you at. You at Sevlokes Hotels 2.0. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Let's get to this politic. Hope everybody's blessed. Before I start this, I am not promoting gang life, gang culture. I'm just telling the testimony, giving life experiences, shining some light on the Denver Metro. So with that being said, let's get to this video. This video comes from the comment section. It's like a recommended question from the homie Babyface Lokester. Appreciate it, Brody. Appreciate the interactions and the recommended video. You asked if I have any stories about the keyways and the Sureños getting into any situations when I was doing time. So I had kind of spoke on this a little bit back. When I was doing time, these are my experiences, right? The two dominant forces with numbers, like the organizations that have the most numbers on the yard out here, every facility that I've been to, it was always the Sureños and the Crips. Pretty much with the Lokes, you have so many different chapters of Crippin', you know, different tribes. You got the gangsters and the neighborhoods out here, you know. And not only that, you got fools in the Denver Metro, and then you got the neighborhoods in Colorado Springs, which Colorado Springs and Pueblo, for the most part, they actually, you know, intertwine. Southern Colorado, Crippin', and you got so many hoods out there in them two sectors, Cali Parks and UCs, the Carvers and the Dog City Fools and the Kitchens, and you know what I'm saying, 60s and 40s. Heard of some Coast Crips out there. Heard of some Grape Streets, Harlems. And then you come to Denver and you got original Denver East Side sets, you know, like the Trays and all that. You know, Project Crippin', Trey Trays, Trey Deuces, Trey Ones, Trey Fours, Dog Cities out here. And then you have Aurora sets and Monballo sets. You know, now, as far as separation, you already know Food's program sometimes on different time frames, but as the revolution and number-wise for Crippin', you know, they're always going to be deep. I've been to one yard where everybody was under one rag and they were pushing the line for the revolution. And there was a lot of power with that. But that's not common for every facility. A lot of times separation between the car. But the Sureños, man, they're like in every city outside of Denver, so they all come together and they link. And in the penitentiaries, they all ride together. Well, when you get to facilities, bro, and you got numbers from, you know, both of the organizations and they both get deep, sometimes it's like, it's power, you know what I'm saying? And they sometimes bump heads. So there has been situations where fools have set it off between the two organizations and they get to tripping, and you know, you always hearing, bro, yeah, we got into it with the Sureños and the fools was setting it off. Yeah, so there was some friction. Now, it's not the biggest aspect of war, but there has been situations. Now, I'm gonna talk about a personal situation with me and a couple of my homies in my circle of homies. So basically, bro, there was a youngster from the turf, and I had talked about it. This fool, he gets quoted at an early age, and this fool is just a little renegade, homie. And he jumped off the porch, and he's just out there at a young age, homie, kicking up dust like he's activated. He goes to Pueblo, and his family's out there, and his dad gets into it with some Sureños. Now, Pueblo, you know, they used to call that the Blue City. There was only Crips and Sureños, and Sureños was hella deep. There was really no other organizations besides the Aces, but it was majority all blue rag gangs. And he goes out there, and his dad gets into it with some Sureños, and this little young fool just chips off an OG from a certain neighborhood. And the OG fool, he basically had respect, right? So them fools was hurt behind that. And you know, they put a green light out on that little fool. Well, he get caught up for that murder case, and he basically don't take a plea bargain for a YOS because he's still young, youth offender system. Basically, he takes it to trial and he loses. While out here, they don't play with that. When you take something to trial, they gonna try to stretch your ass. So they threw a lot of time at this little dude. He was still like, I don't know how it works, but he was still like in the juvenile facilities, and then they waited till he was 18, and they said immediately when he turned 18 he was going to DOC. So they were, obviously they were like, you know what I'm saying, keeping tabs on where this fool was, because they sent word to all the facilities. Basically, there was like a pretty much green light out on this dude. You know what I'm saying? They were going to try to get at him. He pulls up, and I don't know what facility it was, but he pulls up to the penitentiary and hits the main line. And at this time, he ain't really known. He don't really have a resume in the penitentiary. And when he caught his case, he was still young. So, you know what I'm saying? He don't really have stripes like that too much. That fools know who he is. But he basically gets to the pen, in the first couple of days, bro, they rushed that fool. And they pack his ass out. He was fighting, but, he's a youngster, bro. And, like, when fools packed him out, they kind of got at homie. He had to get, stitched up or whatever. Boom, he goes to the hole. And basically they're trying to, see what the situation is. He won't say nothing. And they were asking if his life was in danger. Nah, he's keeping it thorough. Well, I don't even know how other lokes even heard about this, but I think fools started glowing. And there was a word that they packed out some Crip. Well, he's a mixed breed, so, that's another thing is too. He's a little Mexican and black fool. So I don't even think the lokes even knew who he was or knew he was a loke at that time, because it just happened so fast. So they're like, I think somebody was glowing, and they were like, who got packed out? What happened? You know what I'm saying? So they're doing their investigation, and it came back that the Sureños had packed out some lokes. So a couple fools were mad. Well, he goes back to the main line after getting out the hole after some weeks or some shit, because he won't say nothing. And he literally goes to a unit, and he don't even really unpack. He just went out there to just basically get at somebody. He gets in that unit, and the first fool that's a Sureño, this fool just takes off on him immediately, like being in that unit. And they wrap him up, and he was telling me this story, and he's like, these fools are like, bro, what are you doing with your life? Like, you just got here. And he grinned, bro, because he was happy that he got some give back. Well, they sent him to Sterling, homie. And now it's starting to be a rumor in the system. And this was already a rumor that he was from Deuce 7 Block Brick City, right? But him being so young, it was kind of like questioned. He gets to Sterling, homie. And if you know Sterling, you don't leave. They got every level of facility at Sterling. They got AdSec and all. And he pulls up to Sterling, and he don't really even, you know what I'm saying, say anything. That fool just basically gets a lock in a sock and pretty much just runs in on the first person that's from Sureños, bro, and he just lock and socks this fool. Boom, he catches a case, goes to AdSec and all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, these fools are actually, they're mad about it. So they send the word, because they're saying, oh yeah, that fool's from Deuce 7 Block Brick City. So now they're making it a gang thing. I'm already had doing time, but I had went to pretty much the halfway house, and I went back to Bend County. And when I get to Bend County, there's lokes up there, but when I get back up there, they started talking about this, and there was like, you hear what's going on in other facilities? It got set off in different facilities over some fool from Yo Turf. And I'm like, who? They was like, when the wolf heads up. And I was like, oh, hell no, yeah, what's going on? So I write it, and he kind of tells me, but it was word that You know what I'm saying? Be ready, cause like fools was tripping. Well, at the same time as that goes on in Benton County, that goes on in other facilities, and we get word in Benton County, the Sureños had other issues with the Denver car. So we were kind of like tripping, and we kind of pushed up on them like, what's up? They were like, nah, that's like some other shit on another facility. We got different shit we're worried about here. We ain't even tripping off that. And then basically they got rushed like that same week, 7A side. I thought it actually was for what took place with Heads Up. Then all of a sudden, when we're on lockdown, there was kites that were being written over there. It got set off in different facilities in Crowley, in Kit Carson, even in Fremont. And I had some homies that were, you know, in that situation. And where they were, it was Crowley, and then some other fools were in another facility. But one of the yards, fools went out and they were supposed to meet these fools, and it was only a handful of lokes that even wanted to come out. So like other fools heard about it and they stayed back, and then it was only a handful of these fools from Pueblo. They came out to the yard and they actually started banging in the yard. Well, the homie had told me, he said, bro, they didn't come out there prepared. Like, that shit was just crucial. We just started getting at these fools. And he caught an assault to a point where they gave him a new charge and he went to CSP. I was like, damn, fool. Well, yeah, homie, there was, you know, like it was multiple situations, you know, but that's just crazy, homie. Like I said, man, thank you for the recommended video. You know what it is. Let's go.